Good evening and good day to everybody out there. Welcome to the Mancunian Way, episode 5 of Blues Down Under. I'm your host, Patrick, joined by my esteemed colleague in league, Mr. Rampaging Rich Williams. How are you, mate?
Very good. And I thought it was time that we got rid of the Aussie nonsense and we were both All Blacks for tonight and give a bit of a Kiwi.
Yeah. I just noticed we're kind of in a haka pose right now. We've got our shoulders sort of slumped over. Yeah, hands sort of on our thighs, ready to start slapping them, I guess. But pause.
Yeah.
But
in honor of the greatest player ever to come from the Antipodes.
Who was that?
Number 11 at Nottingham Forest.
Oh, of course,
Legend of the game.
Yeah. So I thought we were still talking on rugby. I didn't see your slight. I didn't pick up your slight segue there. Anyway, yeah. No, that's all right, mate. Just apologies there, just to everyone. Yeah, Martin was just dealing with just things with his dad at the moment, so he still holds the access for the show. So we're looking at getting that changed up soon. So we'll be able to sort of go on our own in the not too distant future. So apologies for that, and we thank you for your patience. But we're going to move on anyway. Now, first things first, we've been talking about this on the last show, or since the weekend, that we obviously wanted to talk about Melbourne City, and it's another honour for the City Football Group. But I think we'll get to that a little bit later because, as expected, well, maybe a little bit unexpected, because it's not like the Blues Down Under get all the hot takes and all the news come through. But it seems to have certainly kicked off in the transfer market because for anybody who saw, we've seen the Steam Company, we've seen LB, we've all gone live, and we've gone with the Fabrizio Romano giving us the here we go for Tijani REIJNDERS. So I mean, we've already said a few things on the show, yesterday, but I just wanted to quickly go through some things here. It looks as though it's going to be a 5-year contract with an initial fee of a lot cheaper than we originally anticipated. It was going to be around about £47 million, including add-ons, which will probably get it closer to the sort of £60 million mark that we were all sort of anticipating. But on first looks, that's quite impressive. It looks like Don Hugo's been doing some good business there with the Italians, making an offer you can't refuse, basically. But very, very exciting about that. And yeah, guys, I mean, let's quickly talk about that, because our first signing obviously is going to be a big talking point, and I think we're really excited that not only we're getting a great player coming through, but it just shows that we're making moves early in the window, something that's sort of been missing for quite a few summers.
Yeah, I think, it just shows a recognition, and I think Caldoon in a way set himself up with no way but to close probably at least 3 deals before the Club World Cup. So it looks now very much like not only REIJNDERS but Aït-Nouri and Cherki will be joining us in the next 5 or 6 days for the Club World Cup. I suspect we will have other signings, potentially, a right back, whether that's Livramento or someone else. And, I think we'll sign another midfielder as well. And I don't think Morgan's Gibb-White's dead. I think Forest are probably asking us for too much. But I think with both Livramento and Morgan Gibbs-White, they're not deals you can get done in 2 weeks. Because if you go to Forest and say we want to close a deal in a week, they'll say, well, we want 100 million. Take it or leave it. And I think we're not going to pay stupid for them. And they'll probably want to line up replacements or swaps. So I suspect we'll get these 3 deals done quite quickly, and I suspect we will do at least another 2 or 3 deals, but I don't think they'll be for the Club World Cup. I think there'll be signings that come a little bit later, and that perhaps a few players will come to the Club World Cup who leave afterwards. But in terms of the key needs, some energy in midfield in that number 8, a left back, 8 years overdue. I think since Mendy got that ACL, and it's probably about his 5th game or 10th game or something. Since that day, we haven't really had a proper left back of the quality we need at the club. And and I think that deal, the REIJNDERS deal, and then the nominal De Bruyne replacement in Cherki, I think those are 3 deals we need for the Club World Cup. So it's exciting. But once Khaldoon promised the fans, he's not got much choice but to deliver. So he must have known those deals were 99% of the way through, or he was setting himself up for failure, which isn't likely. I wouldn't have thought.
Yep. From what you've seen of Tijani Reijnders, what confidence does he sort of give you at the moment? You're looking at this as sort of like the closest thing to like maybe Gundogan replacement, or are you just happy that we're finally getting some more bodies in the midfield now and some more bodies with a bit more energy as well?
Yeah, I don't think there is anyone who's like. I mean, he's clearly going to be a Gundogan replacement, but I think he's a little bit faster and a little bit more physical than Gundogan. Maybe not quite as clever, but I'm not sure there are many footballers in the world as clever on the pitches as Gundogan has gone. And I just kind of hope that with all the changes, and I think De Bruyne's gone, Kovacic, who knows with the injury now, that may have changed, but I would have, I think kept one of, let Kovacic go, let De Bruyne go, and let one of Gundogan and Bernardo go. But I still would like one older head who can play in various positions, because I think we'll need that, and we'll need that wise head on the training pitch to bring, the new players through and on. But I think now it looks likely that a few of the players are going to be saying goodbye, and I think in a sense Viana and Cheeky are forcing it, because they're going to put us in a position where we have 20 foreign players, and or 21, 22 foreign players, and whilst Rice maybe and Echeverri maybe accept not being in the Champions League squad and being in a Premier League squad and playing in the Cups, none of the rest of them will. So it is going to force a few people out the door, really, if they want to go to the World Cup.
Do you get a sense with the whole Cheeky and Hugo thing that, obviously Cheeky's made his intentions clear that he wants to leave. He wants to, probably at the point now in his life where he wants to maybe look at retiring or maybe do something a little bit closer to home. But you think also Hugo was brought in because a lot of these decisions had to be business made, not necessarily with like any sort of emotional attachment in a way. Because you've got to be honest, like Cheeky's been at the club long enough that he will have some sort of personal or some sort of emotional attachment to some of these players. And it may be a little bit more difficult for him to sort of let go. So I think Hugo might be in there because, first of all, he doesn't have any major attachment to these players, at least as far as we know. So it's, I think that's sort of how it should be played out, how it should be in a way, because at the end of the day, we have to sort of take our emotion, our emotional, tinted spectacles off and basically put our business caps on, because at the end of the day, we have to treat it like a business. If you don't, then you're going to have all your unks playing until they're all 37, 38 years old.
Yeah. They do. And we as fans don't. We can, be as sentimental as we want. And, we can have favourites who we say don't go under any circumstance. And,
But any sensible fan will know that sooner or later business takes over that anyway. So, we're always sad to see players go, but and I know you and I will be lighting a candle when Johnny Stones leaves, but that's a whole different thing.
I've glued him to the
he'll never
training ground. He can't leave, so that's not happening. And that's I must admit that's my head as well as my heart, because I believe that if City managed it properly, we could keep the world's best centre back, or we can let him go somewhere else and get managed properly and make us look like a bunch of clowns. But that's I kind of have accepted that there is no way we can keep both Stones and Ake, and there'll be some people who might feel even more sentimental about Ake, and
there might be some people that want to keep Ake now, Rich, because apparently Nathan Ake did talk to Reijnders about coming to City as well.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he did. I'm sure
Dutch connection.
Reijnders has talked to a number. But no, I think the people in those jobs can't be sentimental, and I think in a way, the other thing Viana does is he cuts Pep off from the decisions, because if Cheeky makes a decision to cut someone, it's very clearly linked with Pep, because they've worked together to their whole the whole time. Obviously,
I think Cheeky's as close with those players
early.
as Pep is. The only difference is
I'm sure,
his job doesn't involve being around the squad as much.
Yeah,
that's all.
Whereas Vaiana can come in, and he doesn't have his own sentimentality.
Be ruthless, yeah.
He's also a bit more divorced from Pep, which gives Pep a bit of coverage with the rest of the squad, not to appear, too evil in cutting, because a lot of their teammates will be very, very good friends with some of those players, and will be incredibly close to them. So,
yeah. Anything else you wanted to add about Tijani Reijnders? I mean, we did cover a fair bit about him on the last show anyway, but it had to be mentioned now. I think. So this is the thing now, isn't it? It's like if all paperwork's being done and it's sent to FIFA, we don't necessarily have to rely on like him getting a flight to Manchester or picking up a shirt before the 10th.
No,
he can do that anytime he wants now. It's basically he's registered as a player. We may not see it pop up on the city up until next week for all we know. So I don't think it's too much to stress about. I mean, if it's all done and dusted, for all we know, he'll probably be getting his medical done while out with the Dutch team anyway. So as far as we know, everything's all done and dusted. It all seems to be set in concrete. Contracts are signed. As far as I know, I believe Tijani Reijnders' the contract is a verbal agreement, so maybe we might have to wait until there's actual pen on paper, but they'll probably be done when he actually ends up in Manchester in the next week or two. So I think at the moment it's safe to say that it all pretty much is done. We just got to wait until all the proper formalities are all finalised.
And it's fairly simple to get on a plane and fly one of our private jets anywhere to get a contract signed pretty quick if there's anything we're worried about. So, I can do it digitally nowadays, so you don't even have to physically sign it. So, I suspect a contract's digitally signed anyway, and at some point he'll, do an official contract with a paper and pen in front of the cameras. But, in most cases, those are contracts just for the fans. They're not real. The real contract's done, dusted, and signed before that. I'm just trying to look at the comments.
Just before we move on to Turkey, I'll just quickly see who's in the building this evening. Harry Briggsy, big up yourself, mate. I know you were waiting around a bit from the original start time, so thank you very much for your patience, my friend. Shawnee C's in the building. Always good to see you, mate. SOS again. Thank you very much. Stevie, our favourite hammer. Come on, you irons. I hope you're doing well, mate. I hope you're enjoying your summertime, enjoying your off season. If you give us a shout in the comments too, I'd be curious to see what your club's up to in terms of transfer business this summer as well, because there'll certainly be some interesting players there you'll be looking to try and keep, and hopefully maybe some others to replace them. So if they don't, we'll see what happens. Adam Quinn, regular, always good to see you, mate. Fee, hope you're well, love. It was good chatting to you before. We'll probably actually discuss a little bit about what we said in the WhatsApp group chat, because that blew my mind what was said about Inter Milan as well too. So if we get a few minutes, Rich, later on, we might actually talk about that, because let's just say if it happened to a Sky Blue club up in the Northwest, you wouldn't hear the bloody end of it, would you? So we'll certainly get to that in a second. Louis in the building. Hope you're well, mate. Adebayo, always good to see you, mate. Thank you very much. Just your comment, waiting for the announcement of Ait Nouri and Turkey. We'll get on to Turkey in a second. I think that might be actually a little bit closer than what we're all anticipating, especially since the news that just came out a few hours ago. Addo17X is in. Good to see you, mate. Mark Harris is in the building. Thank you. Retroholic, thank you very much. Good to see you, mate. He says, if City get Turkey, do you think it just adds pressure on Haaland to score again, as he's another creative winger? Well, again, he's a versatile player, so he can play the number 10 and he can play on the right as well too. So you can almost imagine him to be like a Bernardo Regen in a way too. So if we believe what Pep Linders wants to do, it sounds more like he wants to go back to a regen version of the Centurion squad with like rapid forwards or expansive forwards basically. So again, this is another one of the million things that we've all been looking forward to for the last 6 months as to what Pep's going to unleash on the Premier League next season. So whatever it's going to be, it's going to be exciting anyway. RN's in the building. Good to see you, mate. Herbal, good to see you as well too, mate. Thank you. Yeah, so big up to everybody who's here. Of course, as we always say, just click the thumbs up as well. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here as well too. It's always much appreciated. And we're enjoying this so far. 5 episodes in of Blues Down Under, and while it is a little bit past our bedtime, we certainly do enjoy giving out good content to you guys as well too. Because we love this community.
Yeah, and we'll talk a bit more about some of the Aussie things as well as we go through. You know, some of the trials and tribulations of being a supporter in Australia.
Yeah. Because there's always something that comes up every week, whether it's an issue with the kickoff time or it's just you'd be amazed just how different, how much of an alternate universe it is out here. Not just being a City fan, but just being a Premier League or any English football, English or European football fan.
Yeah, how long an away trip it is to Elland Road from Sydney?
Still your favourite though.
See,
Rich, I know. Rich said to me off camera. He said to me he was asking about he's got a ticket that's waiting confirmation with Qantas, my employer, and I gave him the lowdown and everything like that. And I was just thought to myself, I'm like, I was going to ask you now that you mentioned it. I was going, are you waiting for your ticket to be confirmed on June the 18th when the Premier League fixtures come out for next season? Because you might. Would you like me to move your booking to when we play away at Elland Road?
If only now it's for work and it's a fixed time before the season started.
Yeah.
I'll have to check the date of the World Club Cup final because it might be when that's happening. But
as I mentioned on yesterday's show, I said it's likely I will be in New York that weekend. But I can't justify paying nearly $900 for that final. Why would I do that when I could go to the Amity Hall with the New York Sky Blues and pay a quarter of that and have a good time?
Yeah. No.
And it's a nice stopover on the way to Manchester to watch Oasis. So perfect.
Yeah. No, I agree. 900 for a game. And so I think, I mean, I don't think, I'll back to the question and the things. I don't think Haaland needs pressure. I think he's puts enough pressure on himself. I mean, he's up there, he'll be up there now. It's summer holidays. He's probably popped back to Norway to go to some north of the Arctic Circle wood to, sit in a, lotus position in the middle of an ice cold stream whilst eating raw reindeer liver for the hopefully not Reinders liver, just reindeer liver for the week, because that's kind of what he does. And, he is a machine, and I think he puts enough pressure on himself. Almost too. I think the only thing I hope Haaland gets is that I think we've seen in the last month or two, for the only time you've ever seen it from him in his whole life, a bit of self-doubt. A bit of self-doubt, and I reckon that's a little bit of self-doubt, possibly, about, whether it's, the prospect of becoming a father, whatever it is. He had a little bit of self-doubt. Haaland, of nearly every point of his life, would never have given a penalty up to another player. And, I just hope over the summer he gets that complete lack of self-doubt back and becomes the, ruthless striking, Norwegian Viking meat shield who just scores goals and doesn't think, because that's when he's at his best. So no, I don't think it puts extra pressure on. And the next comment after that is about, we've moved on from Morgan Gibb White. I don't know that anyone has actually said we've moved on from Morgan Gibb White. We've just gone quiet, and there's no other way to go. I mean, Forest want more money than we want to spend because they think we want to buy quickly. So
yeah,
honestly,
I said before, I just think Marinakis is having coffee dates with Daniel Levy and Tony Bloom on how to push a hard sale for your players. I'm
sure he is, and we've
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
that's a key factor why these mid-table, sort of quote unquote mid-table teams are becoming so strong now.
Yeah, but the difference is with, Tony Bloom's tended to players he's got under contract for 5 years, who, whereas Gibbs White has got 2 years. If he doesn't renew, they are looking at a very, very fast declining asset. Morgan Gibbs White will probably lose if they keep him and it doesn't sign a new deal. That's 40 million in one season they'll lose, and then 40 million in the season after. So ultimately, unless there's other buyers, and I'm not sure I believe there are. I know that rumours are out there of Arsenal, but the first thing you do if you're a Forest or an agent trying to make this deal happen is try and make City think there's other buyers. If players' hearts set on City, then we've just got to say, no, we're walking away, go quiet. You know, in a month's time, the agent says, oh, you know, I've talked to Forest, you know, they are prepared to talk to you at a more sensible price, and we do the deal then. I mean, you know, I think, you know, if we don't need him for the Club World Cup, there's absolutely no point in rushing it through. And you know,
do you think City would possibly look at, if they really had their heart set on him, do you think they would even look at the possibility of a pre-contract? Because when you think about it, like, I know quota is getting a little bit, they are getting close to skeleton.
We can't do that.
They are getting close to skeleton, but the problem is it's going to be even worse in 12 months' time.
Yeah.
It's going to be even more dire. So maybe to cut a little bit of costs, you could shave 10 or 20 million quid off getting him if you hold out for 12 months.
Yeah.
And then at least you know guaranteed you're going to have an extra
24 months. We can't sign him till July 1, 2027. A foreign club on January the 1st, 2027 can get him in a pre-contract. We can't contract him for 2 years. We can't contract him whilst he's under contract to Forest. So therefore,
so in that case, how did the contract work with Liverpool for that Georgian keeper that they or did they pay for him and then loan him back to the club? I can't remember.
They probably paid for him loan back. You know, the rules
maybe it was then. Yeah, okay.
That a European club, you can sign a player in another country in another league for on January the 1st of the year their contract runs out. But someone in their own league can't sign them until.
So it's more of an EU thing than it is a UK thing.
I don't know if it's anything. I thought it's a football thing. I thought it was probably to stop. I thought it was probably to stop players upsetting players at other clubs in the same league. Like, if you think about it, if you're in a close title race and City announced on January the 2nd, you know, it was us, not Madrid, who were signing Trent Alexander-Arnold, that would, you know, really damage the integrity of the game. So I don't think it's to do with Excel. I just think it's that football doesn't want players playing for a Premier League club who's already signed a contract for another one, because that brings into question the integrity of the game, you know, match fixing, and, you know, it may make a club very reticent about using that player. So I assume that's why that law's in place.
Yeah. Just wanted to shout out to Alf Rivake as well. Apologies if I buggered up your last name, mate. But our favourite Belgian Blue has just done a raid from his channel. So big up yourself, mate. Thanks for all the support you give us as well. So much appreciated. Just quickly, I just saw Addo17X just put a comment saying, any of you guys going to Club World Cup games? He's going to the first game in Philly. I don't know where you're sitting, mate, but just an FYI, Section 129 is where the official supporters club for Philly will be at. And if I can say something here on this show, is the Philly group are some of the most fun, exciting group. Like, they're really good fun to be around. Like, just always having a good time, sing a lot of songs, and just have a good laugh all around. So, you know, the city of brotherly love, they could certainly put on a good show when it comes to sporting matches. Just not as long as the Eagles are playing. That's all. Yeah. Quickly, just we'll talk about the other transfer, well, potential transfer. Was Ryan Cherky. Looks as though he has agreed personal terms. That's moving along quite quickly at the moment. I believe it's only a matter of a few million quid that both clubs are trying to negotiate at the moment. There is every possibility that we may get a here we go for that before a lot of you on the other side of the world call it a night tonight. So we're hoping maybe myself and Rich will be waking up to this news that maybe we've got another signing on the way. But yeah, like we talk about, obviously REIJNDERS was probably the first, you know, big set of rumors to come through, you know, a week or two ago. But this is the one that I think we're most excited about, given all the hype around him, what he did for Lyon last season, and just the potential ceiling of this guy. When you know that, you know, 30 miles to the west, you've got another club trying to buy a like-for-like player for 5 times the price. And I'll admit, I'm not going to be the first to say that I know a lot about the guy, but more and more I've started to learn about him. The more and more I think other Blues have started to learn about him, starting to realize that this kid's got really good potential. And we're so lucky that we're getting a player that's very much a low risk, high potential, high reward as well. So I don't know how much you've been able to see, Rich, but does this guy fill you with a bit of confidence, knowing that there's so much talent there, and it seems that we're getting him for absolute Trapattoni?
Yeah. Well, he's only got a year left on his contract, and he's got, he doesn't have a buyout clause. He has a gentleman's agreement. So, I think
Leon
it is
got money to
exciting.
play with too, because they are a financial.
Yeah, and I think it's. I mean, what I like about it is, it's almost no lose when you spend, ultimately, you'd struggle to get a decent player out of the Championship for 35 million now. I mean, that's, I think, basically what, he's a good player, but that's what Adam Morton cost, or a player like that from the Championship. So I think you're, to take a player who could be someone who plays for France, becomes world class, I think it's a punt worth taking. And in many ways, there's a lot less pressure on him because it's not a massive transfer fee. The only pressure on him will be from Twitter, young Twitter tech scouts who, have been bigging up Cherki for a couple of years, might put pressure on him. But to the average punter, reads the tabloids, watches football, they don't necessarily, they've heard his name, but they don't necessarily know him. Comes in at 35 million, pressure's off, and, that will hopefully give him the time to do it. And I think what I'm most excited about with Cherki, from everything I've seen, is that you'd be hard pressed to say which foot is his main foot. He looks totally and utterly two-footed, and that's something that I think's really important, because we saw in even in the FA Cup final, if a player's quite one-footed, it can cost you a goal. And I like that. I like that fact that no one is going to know, because he's two-footed, whether he's going to go left, whether he's going to go right, whether he's going to go straight through. So I hope in that sense, he's drifting into the middle, and he's not being played for his crossing, because I don't think that looks like his strength. His strength looks like, through the middle and threading passes and 1-2s. And that works with, with players, maybe not so much with Haaland, but with players like Reinders, Morgan Gibbs-White, if he comes, Foden, the perfect players to roll the ball and then get the pass back from Cherki really quick, and, move through the defensive line faster than we have been doing. In fact, the main criticism, I was listening to a podcast earlier, and the main criticism from people who watched a lot of football said that, sometimes he slows down the team a little bit. No one could slow City down the way we played last season. So, I think you could put you or me in, and
I've got to be honest with you. The last season, I felt like Rich, some of the games last season, I felt like we were in damage control from 5 minutes in.
Yeah, I thought
even if we're 1-0 up, I felt like we're in damage control. And
I saw Alan playing at number 8 for City last season, but it wasn't. So that should be
as well.
That he should give us a good thing there. But I'm in many ways, I'm most excited about having a proper fullback, a proper attacking fullback. I was very excited when we signed Mendy, having seen him a fair bit for Monaco, and things didn't work out. I know people people tread on eggshells when they talk about him because of obviously what happened, and from what we know. Yeah, but it was
very, very difficult circumstances for everybody involved. But people don't realise just how bloody good he was before he had these injuries. He was averaging like an assist per game, or a goal. Sorry, he didn't really score any goals until about after COVID.
For City, I mean,
he was rapid.
Yeah,
we actually people say we never got Monaco Mendy. It's like until he hurt himself, we had Monaco Mendy. He was unbelievable.
But only for a few games.
It was such a small sample size that people just gloss over it. Yeah.
But just the idea of having a left fullback with a left foot who can beat a man for pace, who can put a cross in, and who can defend well, That's incredibly
And as
exciting.
Martin said, someone who's going to make Gavardio's job even easier as well too.
Yeah, and it's I'll be honest, I'm not, even if we sign Livramento, I'm nowhere near as excited about that. Partly because I do really rate Aït-Nouri. And I've, I can't say, I've seen as much of Reinders or as much of Cherky, but I've seen a fair bit of Aït-Nouri, and I rate him. And we've had the best right back in the world for a chunk of the last decade, so we've seen a brilliant right back. But I think when have City really last had a brilliant left back? I mean, it's you could almost struggle to say in half a century we've not really had many brilliant left backs. I mean, you're probably going back to the early 70s. I know there's been other players there, Terry Phelan and various people over the years, who some people rated, some didn't, and some like Kolarov and Clichy. Delph had a good season, but I do think it's been decades and decades since we've really, had a long-serving, truly great left back.
Yeah. Well, before you get down memory lane, I'll just quickly bring up some of these memberships and super chats as well. Board with this mutant form. I love that name. Big up for 2 months membership. Always appreciated. Thank you for all your support. And Koiki Hayashi's just come in with $1.99. New York Sky Blue here. See you all there. Have I actually met you, Koiki? If you can just mention in the comments, have I met you at Amity Hall before once? Because I'm over there at least maybe a couple of times every year, and I always try to make sure my travel's based around at least 1 or 2 fixtures at the Amity Hall. So if I haven't seen you or haven't made an effort to come up and say hello, I apologize, because I'll definitely keep an eye out for you if City are to make the final. So I should be there anyway. But this Club World Cup, I'm sure all the supporter groups over there are definitely looking forward to this tournament. It's for them, it's they can probably treat it like pre-season mode, but actually something to play for. So I'll just quickly go to this comment that Governor 66 has also said. Heard from an American journo that a lot of Yanks don't know that the Club World Cup is happening. Do you see, if that were to be true, and to be honest with you, given the sort of lack of publicity the MLS gets over there compared to all the other major sports, I'm going to try and draw a parallel to Australia. Now, Rich, I don't know if you've heard, but the 2029 Club World Cup, Australia and New Zealand have expressed interest in trying to host that tournament. Now, in my personal opinion, I think the reason they try to put a name down to host these tournaments is because they never get anywhere trying to bid for World Cups. It always ends up going to the highest bidder. This is sort of the next best thing that's available, because we get Women's World Cups, we get Women's Asia Cups, we get Men's Asia Cups, and then the Club World Cup's another opportunity to sort of get Australian football on the global map again, basically. Do you think that, again, the Club World Cup in the United States has sort of been ignored a little bit, maybe because of the way Europe and UK football is sort of treating it? Or do you think it's just a case of, do you think it's just a case of complete whitewashing of all the other major sports, your baseball, your basketball? Obviously, the playoffs in the basketball and hockey are going on at the moment too. Do you think that it's just sort of?
I think there's a few reasons.
All their energy and resources on that right now, and
I think there's a few reasons. I mean, first and foremost, we know the players need some time off, so we know that probably a lot of the players would be far better off being on holiday in Ibiza at the moment. I know Ryan just had to cancel his Ibiza holiday. That would probably be better for the players than playing football. And the constant football, it does take it away when there's no break from it. And with the World Cup every 4 years and with the Euros every 4 years, you've got two summers when you actually may have, I can actually have a break from football for a couple of months and recharge my football batteries, and it's taking away from that. But I think the biggest challenge,
pre-season's not starting until like mid-July, and they're literally getting off the plane like a week before the season starts anyway. So they're pushing their summers as long as they can. This is none of that's happening this time. You've
also got the inherent problem that in a World Cup, everyone in 40 countries, or however many are going to be in the next World Cup when the number goes up, is going to support their team. In this Club World Cup, City and Chelsea are there. So fans of Arsenal, Liverpool, United, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Aston Villa, you can go on and on, have got no skin in the game. They may, football lovers will want to watch it, but they'll have to pick a foreign team who they want to, they'll be supporting Al Ain to beat City, or, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Juventus because I went on holiday to Turin. So, it's going to be things like that. So you're not going to have that whole country coming together. At most, you're going to have, a bit of West London coming together, and Manchester coming together, if it catches the imagination. So therefore, it's not for broadcasters who are wanting to make money on viewerships and things like that. They know they've got 90% or 80% of the football supporters in the UK who aren't going to go out of their way to watch it because they haven't got a skin in the game. And
do you think the TV broadcast has a little bit to do with that as well? Because DAZN has the broadcast, but I don't know. I think DAZN's influence on sports in America is more to do with how they transmit it to the international audience. Because at the end of the day, like DAZN has a big foot in the door with American football, but that's more for broadcasting to international customers. So like Australia, Asia, I believe parts of Europe as well too.
Well, no, I mean,
so because the FIFA Club World Cup is solely being broadcast by them, there's no influence from Fox, CBS, NBC. Maybe that might have a little bit to do with it as well
that'll be part of it. Although in Australia they own Fox, so they own the biggest football sports channels. They own KO, etc.
Which is what we've been talking about off camera. Because I was telling you, I said DAZN, but then all of a sudden it got announced that Fox was going to be broadcasting pretty much every
So they'll
match.
be influencing that in a market like Australia. They'll be influencing that, but that'll influence in other markets as well. Because ultimately, DAZN, they want to take marketing money off the other media companies. So the other media companies are going to do absolutely nothing to try and help a competitor make more money. So, that's going to do that. And a lot of the media TV stations are affiliated with newspapers. So they're going to be, don't want you to give it too much coverage because we don't want money going over here. So I think you've got that. I think it's new. People are always a bit suspicious about new things. I mean, the football, the Country World Cup, I mean, clubs from the UK didn't even bother to enter. No. And same when European tournaments started, British clubs were too good for this. We're not even going to enter. And you've got the same issue in all the other countries that you've got in England. So Liverpool are champions, they're not there. Arsenal were second in the league, they're not there. So, Liverpool and Arsenal fans will say, well, actually, it's only the third and fourth best club in the country who are representing England, because the way it's selected is the last two, if you've got Champions League winners, it's your two most recent Champions League winner. I don't think Barcelona are there. So Barcelona are, I thought.
No, I don't think they are they?
No, it's Atletico and Real.
It's both Madrid teams. Yeah.
So you've got Barcelona, and the half of Spain that sympathises to Barcelona and is all about Barcelona. They're not going to be there unless Atletico play Real Madrid and the Barca fans get on board because they want Real Madrid to lose. So you've got in every country, you've got, I think PSG and obviously Bayern are there. So you've got the biggest,
don't forget the South American clubs, because a lot of them are going to be playing in Florida, so they're going to have huge. They're going to have huge viewership and huge following at every game.
Napoli aren't there, so again you've got, because I think it's Juventus and Inter, isn't it, who are there? Am I right in?
Yes, I believe so.
Maybe I'm wrong, but so you've got a lot of countries
because a lot of the games are on the east coast of the United States, they will get a lot of the Italian communities out in respective cities as well.
Yeah, and then when
I did preseason, what was it last year? And that we played AC Milan in New York. The Milan turnout at Yankee Stadium was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Actually, it's probably a little bit less than what I expected, but it was still a fantastic turnout.
And then you've got, Inter Miami there, because they managed to find some rule to actually make Inter Miami qualify because Messi plays with them.
Well, because of Messi, they're the pin-up club for the host nation of the tournament.
I know, but you can't have a
they're
team
just a publicity.
Shouldn't really be there, there. So I think that's a bit of a challenge, and they may need to think they're qualified. I mean, I think whichever kind of method they used, City would qualify, but they might want to consider the last two champions from each country, or the most recent Champions League winner and the current champions, because it does make me think, who should really be there, Liverpool or Chelsea? I think City would be qualifying whatever method they used, because we're highest on the coefficient, we're the second most recent champion, we're the most recent Champions League winner. So whichever way you go, City are going to qualify. But shouldn't it be City and Liverpool? From Spain, shouldn't it really be Barcelona and Madrid? Shouldn't it be, Napoli and Inter from Italy? I mean, so I think they need to think about that. And then they need to think about how they're going to engage all the supporters from those countries whose teams aren't there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, do you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch a Champions League final if your club's not in it? Or, a lot of people don't. Most people don't.
Part of me also wonders that this tournament happening every 4 years, how much is how much of a significant change are we going to see in coefficient for some of these clubs? There's every chance that this could end up being a lot of the same clubs going to every single tournament. Doesn't even mean we have to win Champions League. Because when I heard the rumors that we were showing interest in this tournament in 4 years' time, my initial thoughts were just like, City's got to win the Champions League now. City's got to win the Champions League now. Then I just realized, I was like, no, if we keep getting top four for the next 4 years, we'll probably be invited to come along anyway.
Yeah. And I think, but really this is about FIFA trying to put UEFA in its place. And it's about FIFA trying to get money. They're seeing so much money going to UEFA from the Champions League that FIFA's thought, we want a slice of that cake. The World Cup's only every 4 years. We want a bit more money. So, I think clearly there's a move by FIFA for money. But let's see how it goes. It'll be interesting to see how seriously the clubs and with what intensity the football comes. And which clubs, I suspect we're going to see some clubs taking it really seriously, and I suspect we're going to see some not taking it quite so seriously. So that will be interesting too. And what effect it has on next season, because we're really, it is our pre-season. We're letting players have a bit of a rest now, and I don't think most of them are going to get a rest after the Club World Cup.
The thing that concerns me with that tournament and then the gap between starting the season does seem like the start-stop seems quite similar to what we did coming out of COVID. And you remember how disjointed we were coming out of COVID? Because I think if you remember that season, we played Wolves away, which I was a bit nervous about that game being the first game of the season.
Yeah.
Played relatively well. And then a week later, we had that horrible 5-2 match lost at home against Leicester. Because it just shows that a lot of that squad wasn't quite match ready. There's no guarantee that a lot of this squad's going to be match ready come August later this year.
It may be this year it helps us though, because of the new signings, forcing them to play in some games that actually mean something instead of meaningless friendlies, I think is going to be more useful in, assessing them and getting them into the team and training. And, I think, our best player needs a really big pre-season and, needs a fair bit of time to get up to speed. And Haaland's had a fair bit of time off. Rodri's had a whole season off. I think our centre-backs, if, depending on who plays, have had a lot of time off. Then we'll have some new signings, some younger players. So maybe at the moment, if we're relying on KDB, Bernardo, Gundogan, Kovacic, etc., to play in this and then go into a season as knackered as they are and aging, I think it would be an absolute disaster. But, I think we'll probably only have one of those four with us for next season. So maybe it's not not such a bad thing. And I think the new signings
Say that again, Rich.
The new signings. Say that again.
Oh, no, you said we're only going to have one of them 4. Sorry, I'm being honorary again.
No, you're right, mate.
Yeah. So the new signings give a bit.
He throws a grenade and runs.
Give a bit of excitement to the fans. So there's something for people to watch. And,
so who do you think leaves, Rich? Who do you think leaves?
Calvin Phillips.
For God's sake.
Yeah. Calvin's definitely going.
And Water's wet.
Yeah.
Tell me another one.
Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips is definitely
anyone but John Stones.
Yeah, we can all go.
I don't think
we can sell Haaland and Rodri.
Obviously, the news has now come out. Gibbs White is off, definitely. So I don't think Bernardo's going anywhere anymore because who's just signed for Benfica and took all their wages?
No idea.
João Felix has gone back.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. No, I think. I mean,
gone back home. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Said to Pat earlier, I thought we would keep. I thought Kovacic would go. Injury might present that now, but I thought we would keep one of Gundogan or Bernardo to be the wise head, the old head, and the glue. One of them will definitely go. And I thought Kovacic would, but maybe Kovacic won't even be fit for the start of the season. So that might be a January exit if it happens.
I've got a feeling he'll be Gundo. And that's not in the air or anything. I just think Gundo will be the one who'll go. I think Bernardo and Cobra will stay.
Yeah. I think the difference is that with Cover compared to Gundo and Bernardo is Bernardo and Gundo are a lot more flexible players than Cover. But so if you're going to keep one around, it for me it'd be one of them, and it would be Bernardo every day because he's 5-6 years younger. But I'd actually be telling Bernardo not to come to the Club World Cup and to go on holiday to Portugal. I mean, he won't accept it probably, but
you've got to be careful with that.
Yeah,
you get fined by FIFA.
Do you? Because he's the one player. You know, you look at the figures of top players in top clubs in European football. You know, in the 5 years leading up to the season just gone, and Bernardo's played more minutes and run more miles than anyone else. Yeah. And I think
it was something.
I think
he FIFA
desperately needs.
Is it Infantino?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he came out with this is they want everyone to take their strongest possible squads, bar injury.
Yeah.
So what I think you may get is some. I mean, I'm going to talk about this more Thursday night because.
Yeah, couldn't Bernardo get a broken? Couldn't they give him a little broken toe? And just
that's what I'm thinking, mate.
Just a hairline on the metatarsal or something.
Couple of players, you know. I'm not sure there's anyone else who needs.
I think we'll get away with Lasagna Gate. Can we do a Tottenham and do Lasagna Gate?
Yeah, but it's not too many other players who I think desperately need the time off. A lot of them have had injury breaks this season, and a lot of them are a lot younger. I just think. If Bernardo stays, I want him having a proper holiday. You know, at least 6 weeks on a cruise boat off the Algarve somewhere. You know, with little Johnny Stones, his dog.
Yeah. Martin, we've got some memberships and super chats if you want to post them.
Nothing's working for me on my
Foggy's in the chat. Afternoon, Pat and Rich. Hope you're well. We are doing
going back to
not too bad here. Sankul Pandey.
Oh, yeah, I've got it.
Yep. Sankul Pandey with his membership for 4 months. Thank you very much, mate. Just pops a comment in as well too about saying about Trafford. Trafford 6'6". That's insane. Saw a video recently. He can get there, man. We should buy him back. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. So long as Costa keeps dragging on, and if the club aren't happy with what Edison and or Ortega want to do or don't want to do, it's a possibility.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. You know, cut train for European.
And big up JTI. Yep, the $279 Canadian dollars as well. Big up Martin, Pat, and Rich.
Pat, going back all the way to the beginning of our conversation before we both got distracted because we're airheads. Club World Cup in Australia. That's what we talk about in Australia, and you know, there's some real positive reasons to have it. In that, a lot of people haven't been down to Australia, but Australia has an incredible sporting infrastructure. So,
and that's that's the reason why FIFA never gives us a World Cup, though.
Yeah, because it doesn't.
That's the reason.
They don't get to give. They don't give
because they don't get the billions out of us for building new stadiums.
Yeah.
We've got everything ready made. That's why they always say, "No, we don't fancy giving you this World Cup, but we'll let you have we'll let you have the Asia Cup, or we'll let you have the Women's World Cup or something." Like it's always
for those outside,
it's always the plan B. It's always the plan.
For those non-Aussies, you've basically got both every major city. So that's Perth, Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, has two large, modern, great stadia. So Sydney's got.
You could throw Newcastle in there as well too. Newcastle's
no, I'm saying it's
a very good place for football.
But Melbourne's
that's Newcastle, 000. North of Sydney, not Newcastle, where the Saudi club plays. Yeah,
but Melbourne and Sydney both got for football, I prefer the Olympic Stadium. Whatever sponsor it is nowadays, slightly smaller. I think it's 80,000.
What Homebush?
100. Yeah.
What Homebush is terrible for football, mate.
It's better than the MCG.
It's the London Stadium. It's the London Stadium of the Southern Hemisphere.
It's better than the MCG.
Binoculars, mate. Binoculars.
Much better than the MCG.
You want a good seat at Homebush. You have to play in goals.
That's how
terrible it is for football.
Children,
it is garbage. You know what the best stadium is? You know what the best stadium is for football in Australia?
It's Suncorp.
And you know it as well too. Is Suncorp.
Suncorp.
Hands down.
Suncorp.
Suncorp. And not just because of the setup, but because of what's around it as well too.
No, because
Caxton Street and everything, like unbelievable.
Yeah. No, I'll agree that is the best spot for watching the game, but I won't have it said that the MCG is better for football than.
No, I agree with you. Like
the MCG
that 2015 pre-season, MCG, sure, it was great when we played Real Madrid. They had 99,000 people
about there. 50 yards.
I'm going to be honest with you. I reckon about 90,000 of them were just there to see Cristiano Ronaldo.
And they couldn't see the ball because they're too far.
Couldn't see the ball, and it wasn't an AFL ground. It was a sandpit. They relayed the turf. It was terrible.
At least the Olympic Stadium is a football pitch stadium. It's not a cricket pitch stadium, and a very large cricket pitch stadium. But whichever way you talk about it, you've got.
They're going to play in Melbourne. To be honest, mate, they'd be better off at either the Marvel, the old Etihad that they had in Docklands, or where Melbourne City play, which we'll get to shortly. But Amy Park, it's fantastic. Yeah,
and then Perth, you've got a great stadium. Adelaide, you've got a great stadium, and the Adelaide Stadium now, much better place for football than it used to be. And then you've got
the Adelaide Oval falls in the same category as like the MCG because you're trying to play football on a cricket ground, but Adelaide Oval has some charm to it. It's still one of the last few sort of grounds that still holds onto its heritage. You've got like the old scoreboards and the old pavilions and things like that. So
don't use that word. Don't use that word. That word is like standards and heritage.
What do you mean?
Yeah, we talk about standards and heritage. We're old school. So we're fine to do that. You can,
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the 3 Aussie Show.
Yeah, Mark Fogg, thank you very much.
Foggy with the 10 quid.
Bigging up Hugo, driving through these transfers, and thanks to DVLA for giving me my license back. Boom.
Brilliant.
Wonderful news.
Big up, Fogger. And by the way, I got your email, mate. I will respond back today. Big up, mate. You're a legend.
Yeah.
So, what I will say is, has anything happened in Australia? Football, soccer, I don't know what.
Yes, we'll get on to that now. Yes, of course. Last weekend, City Football Group member and champions of Australia, Melbourne City, won the A-League, beating their fierce crosstown rivals, the Melbourne Victory, who a lot of people see as like the Manchester United of the A-League, which is like a double negative, basically. Beating them 1-0 in the final. Can't remember who scored the goal, but anyway, they won the game. So Melbourne City, their second ever A-League Grand Final victory. I believe it goes with their third Premier plate as well too. So, they'll be straight into the Asian Champions League next year, where they'll be playing obviously powerhouses in Korea and Japan and Saudi Arabia. So, good on them. It's always good to see the CFG win.
Yeah, in a way, Pat, it summed up the problem with Australian football, though, because you texted me about it, and I assumed you were talking about a rugby league game and wasn't even aware the grand final was on. Because I'm not a big watcher of the A League. It gets no press attention, and so here you've got the final. You've got a Derby grand final, admittedly 2 Melbourne clubs, so Sydney's probably switched off and not interested. But I was at the rugby league. And I assumed you were going to tell me that the Newcastle Knights had won their game, or Kalen Ponga had got injured or something, and you were talking about football, and that's the problem with Australia. And I've had endless debates with our dear friend Simon, who cannot understand for the life of me why I go and watch rugby league and don't go and watch Australian football. But
actually, while we're here, I think
it's never captured my imagination.
And we need to do a quick shout out as well to our good friend Simon Hill as well too, who just signed off on his last ever commentary with the A League as well too. He's signing off after 20 years of commentary in Australian football and with the A League as well. He will be commentating the 2 Socceroos matches coming up in the World Cup qualifiers over the next few days. But he's finishing up after, as I said, over 2 decades of service in Australia, moving back to the UK. So. Big congratulations!
And I really hope. Yeah,
he's a good friend of the channel. He's a good friend of the Sydney Blues as well too. And we're gonna miss having him around, but we always know he's always one call away too. So big up to him.
And I sincerely hope that he is a far better commentator, far more knowledgeable about the game, and generally very very professional and unbiased. A couple of things that impressed me about Simon over the year. Many years ago, there was an Asian Cup in Thailand, and the Socceroos were playing there, and I was over there for work, and Simon was over there commentating, and I caught up with him, and he was talking through all the names. I think something like Iran were playing Tajikistan or something, or Iran was playing Vietnam, and he'd gone out and he'd learned every name of every player and how you say
what that was. That was working many years at SBS as well too.
Yeah,
they culture you in that way.
Yeah,
it's a world.
Yeah, and I was talking to him. How'd you do that? And he goes, "Well, you're playing Vietnam. I'll go and find a local Vietnamese business. So it could be a Vietnamese restaurant. Could be I think in this case it was a dry cleaner. And I find someone and I ask them if they'll help me for 20 minutes. And I go through all the names." And I learn them and I, write them down in a way that I can remember the pronunciation. So when he's doing the games, like your average English speaking football commentator just says it how they want to say it. I mean, one classic, everyone knows about Freddie Lundberg. Now, no one in the Nordics has heard of him because it's Freddie Ljungberg. So no English commentator has ever made an effort, or Olaf Melberg is Olaf Melberg. So, no one bothers to learn how to pronounce things. And he took the time and he did that. He was incredibly knowledgeable. And, he came to Australia because he worked for ITV Digital when they got they spent, I don't know, 150 million, 200 million buying the championship and were bankrupt within about 12 months because, they'd overpaid about tenfold what the rights were worth. And he was one of their key people on that, and he moved down to Australia. He had a friend who worked for SBS and saw the opportunity, so he took the punt on coming down here, working for SBS, and truly had the genius timing because first he got the 2005 Ashes, which is probably the best cricket series that any of us will ever win, and and he was probably the only. I mean,
obviously,
it's probably the only.
The wrong team didn't win, but it was. It was a hell of a series.
Freddie Flintoff won, so it was brilliant, and I think Simon was probably the only person who'd even heard of cricket working at SBS at the time. So he got that. So that made him a bit of a household name, and then obviously the game against Uruguay, which was that late 2005?
That was November 2005.
Yeah,
November 2005. Yeah,
biggest game in Australian sporting history. I owe Simon a thank you because he got me a ticket to that game. And then the World Cup where Australia, you know, were only a bit of cheating from beating the Italians who went on to win it. And, you know, Australia, a great football team in those days. I mean, you know, people laugh about Australian football.
And I know we call it a golden generation, and people say, well, what do you call a golden generation? Only made it to the last 16 of a World Cup. People don't understand that we were in the wilderness for over 3 decades in terms of getting to World Cups.
Yeah.
And people just don't understand how.
We still are.
Yeah. Oh, they are now, no question. But I think that 2006 World Cup team was every bit as good in that tournament as far bigger and better countries, and they deserve to beat Italy, who went on to win it. You know, they really did deserve to beat Italy, and you know,
they certainly didn't deserve to go out in the manner in which they did.
Yeah, but they had players like Kuhl and Viduka, etc., who were, you know, Schwarzer, Lucas
young
Neal,
Tim Cahill, and Lucas Neal. Neal. There was a time there where Lucas Neal was one of the best defenders in England. Lucas Neal at West Ham was one of the best defenders in England for a period there in the early 2000s.
And you know, the sad thing is that you know, it's fallen apart a bit since then. The game didn't capitalise, but you know, I think, you know, I hope Simon, you know, finds some, you know, good work and gets what he deserves back in the UK, because he certainly should, you know, keep commentating, keep working, and you know, he's become the voice of football in this country, which, you know, is an amazing thing to do over 23 years. And, you know, good luck, and, you know, we'll miss him, but, you know, good
we are hoping to catch up with him on the 23rd as well too. We don't know yet, because obviously
we are hoping to get him on the channel, actually.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, but we're hoping to catch up with him on the 23rd for that Al-Ain match, because Governor 66. I'm pretty sure you're over in Perth, aren't you, mate? I mean, that game for us is going to be at 11 a.m., which is about 9 a.m. for you. And mate, just watching City in any competitive match when there's sunlight is rarer than hen's teeth. We may not get that again until the next Club World Cup if we're there, basically. So people have to understand that about 95% of our fixtures are played in darkness. So for us to get an 11 o'clock game in a serious competition, it's something that, like, you want to take the day off work. You want to just enjoy it and appreciate it, because we don't see it. We don't see it.
I think the main thing to get Simon on for is going to be when Oxford United play Pompey. When you know, I think he's he's got a bit of a thing for Pompey, like I do for Oxford as a second club. And I suspect he's going to be
one of my. I
suspect he's going to be living.
One of my bucket list away days would be Fratton Park. I'd love to. If City ever got a cup match against Fratton Park, I'd love to go. Have you ever been to Fratton Park, Martin? I've heard great things, like in terms of atmosphere.
Yeah. No, I've been. It was when Boswell played. I haven't been for a long time. When Ryan Phillips was well, Sobierski and all that.
Yeah, I went there, and it would have been. I'm just trying to think. Somewhere late 1997. Pretty sure it was the 97-98 season, probably around maybe January or something. So that should be it's pretty good.
Pete James. Is it Pete James? Let's get that comment back up.
Yeah. I was just about to bring that up, actually, because it's sometimes we have to do a little bit more research about that. Yeah, because I mean, we're still caught up very much on the golden generation of the mid 2000s or the earlier mid 2000s. But best player, I don't know, Rich. Would you? I'm going to say it's probably still Jackson Irvine, just because the best. Like, who's the best player in the Aussie squad at the moment, or the best player over in Australia at the moment?
I'd be hard pushed to name about a third of the squad at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking Jackson Irvine, because he is the captain at St. Pauli, who are one of the most iconic clubs in world football as well too. I believe they're safe. I think they stayed up in the Bundesliga as well this year. They played some decent football, so it's more like he's probably got the cult hero status as much as the best player. I still personally think, and I know he's getting a little bit old now, but I think Aziz Behich, who plays for Melbourne City, he's probably still one of our best players just because he's been so consistent with Australia for so many years. But like, I didn't understand how good how good he was until I saw him when we played Argentina in the World Cup, in Qatar, and he was absolutely fantastic that day. Yeah.
Can I say?
I'll go to you in Queensland, are you? Okay. Are you in Brisbane, mate? Do you go with the Brisbane Blues? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Yeah. Sorry, what are you saying?
Can I just say, by the way, if you are Aussie, or you are an Aussie, or and you want to come on the show, email us and we can put you in touch, because if you want to come on and have a chat about come on Blues Down Under, you're more than welcome. Just send us an email and we'll get you on.
Absolutely, yeah. More the merrier.
I've got a question.
We want to share stories as much as we want to give opinions.
Yes. Yeah. I've got a question. Obviously, because I'm only I'm English and I'm a bit simple when it comes to winning a league. It's generally who finishes first wins it. How do you win the league over there? Because when I looked, Melbourne City were top.
They have two titles. So the first one they have is what they call the Premier's Plate. Now that's basically top of the league before they go into the knockout stages. Now this season the Premier's Plate went to Auckland FC, who are the newest upstart club in the A-League. They actually were started last year. First season they won the Premier's Plate. But then when it went to the knockout stages, I believe they got knocked out in about the first or second round. Melbourne Victory had a good run into the finals. Melbourne City were probably the most consistent team, and as a result, they played each other in the actual grand final. So it's not really a final; it's the grand final. But again, coming back to what I'd said on previous shows, I still believe that all football leagues should be played in the league format. It makes absolutely no sense to me to say 95% of your season is going to be played in league format, but to determine a winner, we've got all of a sudden over 4 weeks go to cup format. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I know A-League only has about 12 or 13 clubs in there. I don't care. Scotland only has about 10 or 12 clubs. They play each other 3 or 4 times a season. There's no problems with them doing it. I know we don't have relegation either, but that doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter.
Yeah,
it shouldn't matter.
I think the reason it's done, Pat, is that ultimately it's done in AFL, it's done in rugby league, it's done in, and it provides that end of season excitement. I don't think the football was prepared to go against the dominant sports in this country by going to the traditional model. So, I think it's a survival thing. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying that's why it's done. It does bring an element of excitement, and that must come in part from American sport, which obviously every single American sport isn't who's best over the season, it's who wins the finals. I think Australia went that way with all its main sports, and so I think that's what happens.
Mark Fogg asked a good question here. He said, "Is it like rugby league over here?" I would probably over in UK.
Yeah,
I'd probably say it is. Yeah,
it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same as rugby league. I mean, they're all slightly different in that. Yeah. Some of them have first against 8th, second against 7th, third against 6th. Some of them have, like AFL has 5 against 8 and 6 against 7, and whoever wins that plays. So they all have something slightly different in Australia, but fundamentally, it's to keep it live for 8 clubs, and then you work it down to a grand final, and sell out a large stadium in that final. And often the great sides win both. They win the minor premiership and they win the premiership, but it's not usual for anyone outside the top 2 or 3, but it does happen that someone sneaks in from a lower position. It's what Manly are going to do this year in the NRL. Coming from 6th.
But if Newcastle has something to say about it tomorrow, mate. Yep. Go on. I don't think I could ever get Martin a Newcastle shirt, by the way, because it's such a clash of interest for him, because the traditional colours of Newcastle are blue and red. So it would make absolutely no sense for him whatsoever.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah.
Well, Martin's ever so manly, so he'd have to support Manly, obviously.
Yeah.
Can
we get a thumbs up in the chat from everybody if we get Martin a Chris Wood New Zealand shirt, and he has to wear it on the first game of next season. Put some wood emojis in the chat, and we'll get him a Chris Wood New Zealand shirt.
A signed Nunes shirt for Alan, I think, is a must. I mean, Alan doesn't need to know if it's really Nunes' signature. We just get a shirt with Nunes on the back, and you know, Martin couldn't get a black felt tip and write Matthias Nunes on it, but yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I'll
get you a signed Mets cap.
Yeah. Can I just say my humblest apologies for the late start. It was my fault. I was at the hospital with my father. It's his birthday today, so happy 84th birthday to my dad.
Oh yes, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Many happy returns.
So yeah, it was my fault, my bad. So my apologies
That's
for the
fine.
late start.
What was I going to say?
Alan didn't want to wait for you. Alan didn't want to wait. He went bad.
No, I know. He got him. He got impatient, which is uncharacteristic for sure. What was I going? Yeah. I wanted to quickly put this about what happened with Inter. What I posted to you guys in the chat earlier. Did you see that, Martin?
Yeah, I haven't seen it from.
I'll read it quickly. This was put out by Foot Mercato, who obviously are very, very good with a lot of with football in Europe, of course. But
allegedly.
Okay, everything from the top to the bottom is allegedly. Okay, but they're saying breaking news: Inter are part of the biggest financial scandal in Italian football since Calciopoli, which I believe is the Juventus with the referees and the league and all that. A confidential report has revealed that nearly 300 million euro in revenues from fictitious Asian sponsors, open brackets, between the years of 2016 and 2019, close brackets, were allegedly used to bypass financial fair play. While other clubs were punished for less, the Italian Federation allegedly helped Inter avoid sanctions, even amid links to mafia-connected ultras.
I think the question is on that is whether, if something like that's proved to be true, I think there'll be sanctions on Italian football, full stop, not just on Inter, because you'd have to.
To what extent though? Because hasn't the original consortium, which I think was from China, they've sold their majority of Inter, I believe, or something, haven't they? So to what extent are they going to be punished? Because
is that why Inzaghi's getting out? Is that why Inzaghi's doing one?
I thought 5 goals against Paris was enough, but this is just on another level.
He's like, I'm off to Saudi. Bye.
Maybe they found out just before kickoff it was coming. I mean,
bit of Barella.
They're owned
Barella for a tenner.
Yeah. They're owned by a North American hedge fund or something now. They're American owned, so but who knows? But
shut up, you noisy buggers.
Still won't be as bad as City, with our, evil way we, help someone get 250 grand on the contract.
Well, let's see if Inter Milan get judged like Manchester City got judged.
Yes, which I certainly wanted to talk about, so I'm glad you brought it up first. But I'll be interested to see if see when the shoe's on the other foot, basically.
The only supporter base I've ever met in Italy is entitled as United and Arsenal and Liverpool fans, and it's probably Juventus. But after all the things Juventus have done over the years, they can't really, get sanctimonious with anyone about anything, can they? So,
But you wonder how deep this actually goes. Does this go as far as Italian football? Does this go to the government? Does this go to local councils in Milan? Like, you talk about underworld figures. You talk about underworld figures, and
and that's the honest. Milan's the honest mafia-free North.
It won't be the only club. I am telling you now, there will be clubs in the Premier League that have fell foul to this. and I don't mean this scandal. I'm telling you,
something of a similar nature.
Yeah, the Italian Federation of Mancity reportedly, allegedly, we always say allegedly because it's still under investigation.
I said it from the top. Everything from the top is alleged. I'm just not going to.
Whereas our football league has done everything they can to damage the best club. You know, in my view, allegedly, they've consorted with other clubs to try and deliberately damage City.
What's Elliot doing here?
So,
1 part, 2 by Stones, 3 Morgan Gibbs White. Gibbs White ain't happening, apparently, Elliot. Apparently, he's off the table now.
No, MGW stands for something else. Stands for Martin, but I won't tell you about the GW.
Pardon? No need for that.
Yeah, I'm by Stones, Pat's Pat, and you're MGW.
Are you going to cry if Stones goes?
Well, it depends where he goes and whether the new shirt I'm going to have to buy matches my tone.
Oh my God.
I'm starting to wonder if Rich is capable of actually crying.
I mean,
I don't know.
Obviously,
I've
started my.
Can you cry? Like,
yeah, I'm just thinking. Imagine him as player manager of Oxford. You know, takes a 90% pay cut, goes down, get rid of get rid of Gary Rat, John Stones, player manager.
Scores a hat-trick against Wickham in the cup.
Yeah. I think plays 40 games.
I mean, it's a good question, by the way,
to the Champions
Blue
League.
Moon. Are we only buying 2 midfielders? It must mean 2 are going to stay then, like we said.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it could be that they wanted Kovacic to go.
I just think it's the case of the current midfielders that we have. Every single one of them, or at least all the ones that are over 30, are all no more than a year or 2 away from leaving anyway. So I think it's just the case of just getting 1 or 2 maybe 2 more younger midfielders in there, and then we move on something else in future windows.
Yeah, well,
it's not over until what?
Well, to me, City. If City have briefed anyone, they're walking away from a player. It's probably because they're not walking away from a player and they want to force the hand of the other club. And I think we're going to have to walk away from Livramento and Morgan Gibbs White if we have any chance of signing them, because otherwise we'll be paying 100 million for them both. And and City can't walk away from a player whilst telling the fans this is only pretend walking away. They've got to convince every in the know that they're walking away, even if they're not.
They haven't told me.
They want to get that deal.
That's
well, they probably haven't. Yeah, no, but if we want to get Livramento and Morgan Gibbs White out of Forest and Newcastle, we're going to have to walk away from negotiations a few times.
You can't say that, Marcel. He's had an Achilles operation. Obviously, it's staying because he scammed it.
Well, I think
time to watch your Achilles.
If Kovacic is not fit until about 1 day after the transfer window closes, then Kovacic might force us to sign 1 fewer midfielder because we're carrying him next season. But
did I read somewhere that Calvin Phillips has got a similar situation? He had to get some surgery or some operation done on his ankle or somewhere in his foot, and he's not ready to play until August or something. Either way, just Leeds, just fork out 10 million. He's all yours. He can go home.
I think we're getting to the point where we'd almost pay him out part of his contract and release him, or accept next to nothing. I don't think we're gonna fanny around with Phillips injured, training with City till December.
Rich, I still get the feeling that it'll be a loan to Leeds with the obligation to buy if they stay up, because Leeds are in the Premier League, I don't think they'll have a problem with the 150k salary now. But if they get relegated, then it becomes a big problem if they were to buy him outright.
Yeah, and he's still got the love of the Leeds fans. So, I think, I hope he goes there. I mean, I like the lad, and I hope he gets his game back, and I hope he goes to Leeds.
Yeah, well, when we signed Calvin Phillips, the only problem Leeds had or Leeds fans had was that they were pissed off at the club because we only got him for 40 million when we should have been paying 60 million according to them. So that was it. There was no problems with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone thought, I barely know a single City fan who didn't think Calvin was a brilliant deal. And that's the reality of football. You can do the worst deals that turn out brilliant, or you can do the best deals that turn out terrible. And there's just nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see. Anything else you want to add? Because I'm gonna have to drop in a minute. We'll go back.
I think.
No, it's all good. We're approaching midnight here, so we're probably going to have to turn it in for the evening. But yeah, look, big up to everybody for being a part of Blues Down Under episode number 5. We'll look forward to bringing you the same again this time next week as well. Big up to everybody in the chat. Big thank you to our super chat donations, Mark Foggy as well, JTI, memberships with Sankol, Karaoke as well too with your donation. Ball with this mutant form. Again, I always have a chuckle at that name. With your 2 months membership as well too. Big up to everybody as well. Of course, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe as well. Martin, we're back with Thursday night chat, I believe, around about 9:15, somewhere around that time.
Yeah, 9:15-ish. We're gonna delve into the Club World Cup a little bit because I've seen some people caring about it, some are not. We'll talk about any other business transfer-wise. I'm not sure about Waffle this Friday because a few people are away. We may do something Friday. It just may not be the Waffle show. But the Waffle show will be 100% back next week. Oh, we can do it. We'll see who's available. It's all on availability because it is the summertime and people are here, there, and everywhere at the minute.
I might be around for that. If it's not too late, I might be around for it.
Martin, you're on Aussie Blues Down Under. It's not the summertime. It's the winter time.
Sorry, the winter time.
We're getting to the end of autumn. It's winter,
Winter.
It got down to about.
Before you say anything, Rich, there is a possibility
today.
It is colder where Martin is right now. Holy shit, they're only 4 degrees warmer.
It got to 11 degrees today.
I'm showing 11 degrees here in Sydney right now. According to this, Martin's still dealing with only 15 degrees.
I had to get my winter coat out today to drive.
That's why his camera's not on. He's already lost his Tenerife tent.
Yeah, I've got this really large coat I got on and wore today. It was 11 degrees when I left the house.
Hey, just wait 5.5 weeks. I'll have my turkey teeth. Wait till my turkey teeth come in 5 minutes.
Yeah, he won't have any Wi-Fi either to show us.
And on a more serious note, Pat, do you reckon there's any way?
Can you imagine that new season and Martin's on the channel with walking in looking like he just swallowed a piano?
Yeah. Do you reckon there's any way that Auckland City could raise the money to loan Chris Wood for their Club World Cup? Because I think it's a tragedy that, as one of the greats, he's not there. And there's a team from New Zealand there.
I could see him coming back to the A-League at some point.
Are you allowed to do a deal where you loan a player for a couple of months for the Club World Cup? I think you are, because I think you can register. So as long as he's back,
there's some sort of loophole zone. I don't know the full details of it, but
surely someone in Auckland with a bit of money could come up.
Because it's Auckland.
$1 million for the insurance.
It's Auckland City. Because they play in that Oceania division, whatever the hell it is that they always win every single year. But it's that Auckland FC, the new upstart team that got to the finals of the A-League this season. So there's a bit of a confusion going on there between the two clubs. But I don't know. I mean, to be honest, though, someone like Chris Wood, if he was going to be playing for that sort of club, the Auckland City, the Oceania club, he probably wouldn't sign for them until he wanted to play if he was 44 years of age or something like that.
No,
because he's still too good to be playing for a team like them. With all due respect,
but but for this Club World Cup, he does a 1 month deal, 1 month loan from Forest, goes to the Club World Cup, leads his home club.
Anyway, good night.
5-0. Yeah, I'm going to get onto Auckland contacts about this. I think this has got to be made to happen.
Yeah. If he was to come to the A-League and join a Sydney club, would you get a season ticket?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so too.
Him and Stones, you know. Yeah, him and Stones together. Yeah.
See, someone like John Stones, I could see him like in the latter part of his career, if as long as injuries hold up, he could do a couple of seasons. He could do a season or two in the A-League.
Yeah,
because I just think it'd be something. He'd want to go somewhere where he just enjoys football.
Yeah.
He can enjoy life and enjoy football at the same time.
Imagine him creating for Chris Wood. Oh.
Yeah, but he said it too. You remember the famous footage of like Harlem talking to Yorkshire accent, the Louvre. John Stones actually said when they were talking about Etihad destinations, he said, I am dying to get out to. I'm dying to get out to visit Australia. He's always wanted to go to Australia. So who knows? Maybe there's something for him in the future. Maybe
Stones,
down in Melbourne City.
Stones, if you're injured next season, and feel free to come over to, the Gabba, the MCG, SCG, wherever you want. Be entertained by the brilliant Sydney Blues. Maybe even for a test match in New Zealand, Wood against Stones. Who wins, Stones or Wood?
Who knows?
It's like rock, paper, scissors, but Stones and Wood. Great name for a beer.
Yep. Sorry, mate. Someone's already beat you to it.
No, Stone and Wood. I'm talking about Stones and Wood.
Good idea, Fogger. Hey, Fogger, I might look into that. Anyway, I'm going to shoot. I need to go.
No, you're right. Yeah, let's wrap it up anyway.
Night, everyone.
Big up, everybody. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And again, as I said, we look forward to seeing you for Thursday night chats and whatever's going on for the rest of the week. But until then, as we said, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll look forward to getting out there and getting more content to you during this transfer window. And, of course, looking forward to hyping up this competition coming up in the United States, regardless of what your opinions are. But, it's a chance for City to possibly win some more trophies and maybe still wrap up this awful season with a nice, neat little FIFA bow on top of, we'll see what happens. But until then, everybody, always a pleasure, never a chore. We'll see you again very, very soon. I'm Pat. That's Rich. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Ciao for now.
We'll get Grumpy Allen next time. Bye.
Yes.